Okay, I'm going to start over. So, as you guys know, with recruiting, you have to start with the application. So, the first thing that we do when we are setting up your recruitment module in the system is to set up your application. So, when the employee is going through the system, they're going to have a series of tabs or of information that they complete. Each one of these tabs is listed right here. You can have these enabled or disabled, and then within each tab, you're able to set up custom fields, different questionnaires, things like that. So the first step to setting your application up is going to be configuring this area. So if anyone has already set up their application and is looking to edit that, please feel free to reach out to us and we can help you configure this in a different way. Otherwise, if you have not used the recruitment module before, please know that this is fully customizable. Each tab can have, whatever it is that you are looking to know about your applicant. We can pretty much have that in here. All right. So the second piece is actually creating a job requisition. So within your recruitment tab, you're going to have a job requisitions option. And typically what we do is we have all of your jobs imported into the system already, so that when you go to add a new job requisition, we can select from a job that you already have set up in the system, which is beneficial because it's going to populate our job description, our requirements, things like that. So when I go to my job, I can see here that I have a list of all the jobs that I have set up in the system. So I'm just going to select my project manager position. It's going to ask me if I want it to populate my job description and other fields that I've already populated, and I'm going to say yes. And as you can see, my job description is now available. Some of my job categories have been populated, and then any other information that is asked in your job setup can be populated here as well. So the setup is really easy. It's very self-explanatory. Once you apply the job, you can, put your degree required, any experience you want them to have, compensation, and then you can assign hiring managers. This is just basically going to give an employee in your system access to certain applicants. So if an applicant applies to this job, their hiring managers that are required or that are indicated for that job will be able to see those applicants. Okay, so the last step is actually posting your job. So most of you probably use a ZipRecruiter, Indeed, LinkedIn, something like that, and you can continue to use those sites, but what you're going to need is an application link. So once you've created your job requisition, under this instructions tab, you're going to see an apply for job link section. All you need to do is just copy the link, and then you can paste that in whatever recruitment platform you're using. So whether that's Indeed, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, whatever it might be, you can just paste this in the section where it asks you if you want to use a separate link to do an external application. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to a different browser so that I can show you the application process. So when your applicant clicks on the link that takes them to the application, this is what is going to pop up. So this is taking them to the Axiom system. As you can see, the job title is listed here, so they know that's what they're applying for. And they're just going to start filling out their information. All right, so we're going to say no, I'm new because we've never applied for a job before. I'm going to click sign in. I'm going to enter a couple more pieces of information here. And my favorite part of this application process is the uploading your resume. So when you upload your resume, not only does that give you as the employer the ability to download their resume and view that as a PDF or a Word document, but it also populates the entire application. So I'm just going to use my resume as an example. Just bear with me while this uploads. Okay, so once the resume has been uploaded, you will see that it's been uploaded and then resume parsing was successful. So that tells me that the information from my resume has been transferred to my application successfully. As you can see, my address has been updated here, and then as we go through these different tabs, you'll see that information has been populated for me. So I'm just going to continue on this tab. Then we get to the resume tab. If they didn't upload their resume when they were entering their original information, they can have the option to upload it here. They also have the option at this point to populate their information from LinkedIn, which is also nice that they don't use a typical resume in a PDF or Word document form. So at this point, I wanted to point out the custom fields option. So if there are certain questions that you really want to know from your applicants that you currently are requiring on a paper application, this is where we can add those custom fields and then they can answer those questions. You can do this on any tab, and then you can make those required or not required. So as you can see here, I have a do you have an active non-disclosure agreement question. I can click my drop down for yes or no, and this question is required, so your applicant will not be able to move on unless they complete this question. And then the other custom field that I have created here is, were you referred by a current employee, and if so, please indicate who that is. So if the applicant has not been referred by a current employee, they don't have to complete this field. If they have, then they certainly can enter Jenny Smith, for example, referred me. All right, so that's the resume tab. Then you have your job categories tab. So your job categories are going to come from the jobs that you have set up in the system. So these were the jobs that I kind of showed you when we were creating the job requisition. All of these are going to be the same as what we have available there. So if they have project manager experience, then they can select project manager, and then they can put the number of years that they have been in the industry. And they can add multiples as well. So if they've also been a medical assistant before, if that's applicable, they can add multiple categories. Okay, next is skills. So skills are also something that you can define within the system. That's going to be things like communication, IT competencies, you know, Word, Microsoft experience, stuff like that. Your work experience. So this is where me uploading my resume is really comes in handy. So as you can see, it's populated everything that I had in my resume, all of my job description, how long I was there. Everything has been populated for me so that your applicants aren't overwhelmed and have to complete information twice. Same thing with my education. Everything's been populated for me. You have your EEO information tab, professional references, and then a summary of all of your information. So that's going to be the basic setup of your application. You certainly do not have to require all of these tabs. You can take out any tabs. If you just wanted it to be contact information and resume, we have several clients that do that because they feel like if an applicant uploads their resume, they don't need all of this other information. So you could just have 2 tabs if you really wanted to. All of that is completely up to you and customized. All right, so once I'm done, I'm ready to apply for my job. I can review the job description, and then all I'll do is click this Apply for Job link. If I want to update or upload a cover letter, I can do so at this time. And now I have applied for my job. Another thing that I can do is search for other jobs that have been posted by this company. If I go to this Find Jobs tab, then I can see that there's also a customer service rep position. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. and I'm going to apply for this job as well. So as you can see, a questionnaire has been populated for me. So when you have a job requisition that you want set up, there are certain ways that you can filter out your applicants, and a questionnaire is one of them. So there's a new knockout functionality within the recruitment module. So basically what you do is you create a questionnaire, and depending on the applicant's answers, it will knock them out of the application process. So if you want to ask, have you ever been convicted of a felony, and someone says yes, when they submit their questionnaire, they're going to be notified that their questions were to determine whether they are a good fit for that position, and you're thanking them for their interest, but you will not be considering them for this position. So that is the application process. I'm going to go back to our job requisitions, back on the administrative side, so that we can see this person's application and look at their questionnaire. So I'm going to go to my project manager, and I can see on the applications tab that I have applied for this position, or that an applicant has applied for this position. When I go into the application, you'll notice that their contact information is listed in here, any personal information, custom fields that we've asked them, and then my hiring stages. So right now my resume has been received. I'm screening them. You can customize all of these stages. So if you thought that resume received and screen candidate is the same type of stage, then you can remove one. You can add stages in. All of this is customizable as well to whatever process you have for your applicant. All right, so this is where the knockout process comes in. Under your application, you can see that I have my customer service rep, that this applicant was knocked out of that process because they answered one of my knockout questions. So I know that they're not going to be a good fit for my customer service position, but they are an okay fit for my project manager position. So I'm going to continue on to my resume tab so that I can view more about this applicant. So on my resume tab, I have the ability to download the resume that they've uploaded. You can view the job categories that they've assigned, any skills they would have chosen, their work experience, education, and so on and so forth. I can export this as a PDF if I need to maybe send this to another hiring manager for review, or if you have clients that you're recruiting for, you can download the PDF and send to them that way. But that's a really good way to look at the resume in a concise form instead of having to scroll through all of this information. So if you've decided to either reject or interview this applicant, you can go to your communications tab, and we have an email button up here, which will allow us to select from templates that we've created. So you can either select interview request or decline applicant. So I'm going to request an interview from this applicant, and my interview template is going to populate. You can change this information before you send it. Let's say you wanted to add a specific date in there that you want them to be able to interview on, then you can add that information in here. And then you can also add a calendar attachment so that they can accept the invite. And then you would just click send email. The other thing you can do is actually schedule interviews within the system. So if you add an interview, you can select what kind of an interview it is. So that might be initial, phone screen, in-person, something like that. You can set up all of those interview types. You'll say when, you can select where, and then you can add participants. So if you want to add the hiring manager into this as a participant, or any other people that might be involved in the hiring process, you can add them as participants. Then when you save your interview, you will be able to send out a communication to everyone to invite them to participate in the interview. So if I say send selected interviews as iCal, then everyone who is indicated as a participant will get that invite. And then the last part of the application process is just hiring the applicant. So once you're ready to hire, you'll just click this hire button up here, hire employee. I'm going to select the job application that I am applying them to. You'll enter their hired and started date. Everything else should be fine. You don't need to worry about that. And now, when I go to my employees, they're in the system. So that is the basics of the application process and the recruitment module. There is a lot here that can be configured. There are a lot of customization options here, and there's a lot of setup that goes into it. So I would love to set up one-on-one meetings to discuss your needs personally, because I know everyone has a different application process, everyone has different needs. But I did want to show what the basic functionality is and sort of what's available there. So are there any questions at this time? You can feel free to send me a chat if there are any questions. Or if you want to set up a one-on-one meeting, please feel free to reach out to me, because I know this is kind of a lot to cover in a short period of time, getting into all of the details. So I'm going to open it up for questions, and then we will be all wrapped up. Don't see anyone in the chat. I'm going to open up your line. Just in case you aren't able to type in the chat box, you should be able to ask your question over the line. Okay. Are there any ad posting metrics available? Are you referring to like tracking where they've been recruited from? Oh, okay, yes. Yes, so if I go back to my recruitment and then job requisition, within each position, I can see who all has applied for this job. So that's one availability or one view that you can see who all has applied for the job. So that's number of candidates applied. You can see the date that they've applied on. I believe that there's a report. I would need to look into it, but I believe that there's a report that shows where the candidates are in the hiring stages and how long it's taking them to be hired or move along in the process. And then also, if I go into one of my candidates, for example, when they were going through the application process, I didn't focus on this a lot, but one of the questions was, where is it? Was a referral field, and I can't find it right now. I think it might be under demographics. Okay, so yes, so under the demographics section, they can complete this and you could have it as a required field. But under the referral field, that's typically where you would have ZipRecruiter, Indeed, wherever they came from. And then they can select that option for the email source. Okay, one more question. How long are applications, resumes maintained within the system? For as long as you want them to be. They don't go anywhere unless you were to delete them out. So the applicants are always going to be within the system. Even if you were to delete a job requisition, their application is still going to be within the system. And then for these certain sections, job categories, skills, all of that, if you actually hire the employee in the system, all of that's going to carry over to their employee profile so that you can still view their education or previous work experience at any time. Good question. Anyone else have any questions at this time? Or Sam, you can keep asking questions too, that's fine. All right, well, if that's the only questions that you guys have, you can feel free to drop off. I'll stay on the line for another 5 minutes just to make sure no one has any additional questions. But thank you guys for attending. I appreciate your time and interest in the recruitment module. If there's anything you want to ask me about just in private, feel free to reach out and we can schedule a one-on-one training.